This is the pantry in my 150-year-old house. It's not very functional, there's not much storage, and it ain't too pretty. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a quick and easy remodel of the pantry area. So let's get started. The first step, of course, is to demo all the shelves. Fun fact, where my pantry is now used to be the wraparound back porch. That's why there's a doorway in the pantry that's been sealed up. It's also why the floor is super uneven. And now I get to clean up my mess. So for the cabinets, I'm going to be using these pre-made cabinets from the big box store. Now I know I could build them myself, but like I said, this is a quick and easy pantry remodel. My wife insisted on it. These, of course, are the base cabinets, and the first thing I have to do is attach them together. But with these pre-made cabinets, they have this gap in between them. They leave this space so you can put an end cap, in case this is the end of the cabinet run. But what you have to do is find you a piece of plywood or something that's the crazy odd size and cut you some spacers so that when you put these together, there'll be a solid connection at the back. Here's a tip for the cabinet manufacturers: include these spacers. Now that I have the spacers cut for the top and bottom cabinets, I can actually start fastening them together. And the way I like to do this is to remove the cabinet doors first. Then I can pre-drill and put my screws in behind where the hinges are going to lay, so you won't see the fasteners. Now the next step is clamping them together, and it's probably the most important step. You want to make sure you clamp it together very securely and even and no gaps, so that when you screw them together, there's no slide and they look like one seamless cabinet. This does take a little time, but it's worth making sure everything lines up. Once I finally have it all lined up, I use a center punch to mark where I'm going to drill. And then I use a small drill bit to drill a pilot hole. This will go through the first cabinet and into the second cabinet to help reduce any chance of the wood busting when I drive the screw in. Next, I'll use a larger drill bit that's slightly larger than the size of the screw head to drill a small recess. This will let the screw sit right below the surface of where the hinges will run. And then I drive in my screws. The next step is to attach the cabinet at the back. So I put in the small spacer pieces and clamp it securely together, just like I did with the front. Then I'll pre-drill the holes and drive screws through both cabinets into that spacer piece. This is an old house, and the walls are sometimes not square, and this pantry was definitely not the exception. So I added these 2x4s to the back that I could screw the cabinets to. I check to make sure the cabinets are level and shim the bottom as needed. And then I measured for the gaps on each side of the cabinet. Once I had my measurements, I went to the shop and cut down some boards. With my boards cut, I'll pull the cabinet back out again and fasten these small filler pieces to the sides, pretty much the same way the cabinets are fastened together, clamping, pre-drilling, and screwing them into the cabinets. Making sure it's level, I drill a couple of screws in to hold it in place, and then I check for level again before driving in the rest of the screws. And here you can see why I added these 2x4s at the back. There's a few gaps and then this crazy huge gap on one side. And the next day I started with the top cabinets, and they went together the same way. Remove the doors, clamp them together, pre-drill the holes, come back and drill a larger hole, and then screw them together. And the back's the same way. Add your filler piece, pre-drill the holes, and put some screws in. I measured and cut out my filler pieces and then attached them to the sides of the cabinet, just like on the base cabinet. For the top cabinet, I added 2x4s to the wall to account for the gaps. And I also added these blocks so that the cabinets can just be rested on those when installing them instead of trying to hold them up. Next, I had to prep the walls for painting, and there was a lot of loose paint, so I had to do a lot of scraping and a lot of sanding, which was no fun. But eventually I managed to get all the loose paint off. My goal was to make the pantry look like it had been here, so I wanted the backsplash to match the walls on the sides. I had to add those vertical boards to account for the unevenness of the wall, and then I cut some new boards and nailed them up the old-fashioned way so that it would match the walls. So the cabinets are in, the top cabinets and the bottom cabinets, and this board's been put on the back to match what's on the walls. All this is just going to be painted. What I got to do now is scribe out for the countertop, and the countertop we're going to use is a pre-bought birch solid slab. Yeah. It's easy, quick. To scribe it out, I'm going to take some scrap plywood like this. Lay it along the back, and then a couple more pieces along the sides. And that'll make sure, since this is an old house and there's no square corners, that my corners are going to be exactly what they need to be. And I'm going to scribe up for the walls and how uneven they are just by running a pencil flat up against the wall all the way down, and that'll give me a nice line contour that I can cut out with the jigsaw to make sure that it's all going to fit together. And I'm going to do the same thing with the back. This left side over here looks pretty good, surprisingly, but I'm going to do the same thing with this back piece. Run my pencil along it and scribe it out. And then I'll go cut these out with the jigsaw. So my boards are cut and I fit them in place and pretty much eliminated all these gaps. What I'm going to do now is go back and screw all this together so it stays this shape. So I use the template and transfer the shape to the countertop. But before I do that, I lay down some blue painter's tape to help eliminate any tear out or chip out when I'm using the jigsaw on the actual countertop. So I've cut down the countertop, hope it's going to fit without any issues. I'm going to mount it to the cabinets using these L brackets. Just some tiny little L brackets. They work real well. Kind of heavy duty. So it's a pretty decent fit. The gap at the back is pretty good. These boards are kind of floating on the wall. They're not all tied up there, so it did move a little bit of a gap, but good enough. I like it. To fasten, I'm going to pre-drill the holes on the underside where those L brackets are and run some 1-inch screws up into it, and it should be good. So the next step is to take all the doors off the cabinets and begin painting them. And we'll paint these walls, and then once everything's dry, we'll come back and stain and seal this countertop. So the pantry's all finished, painted, distressed, sealed, countertop stained, everything's sealed and all good. Should last for a while. My wife picked out these little glass knobs. I like the way they look. The only thing left I'm going to do is add some under the cabinet lighting to brighten up the space. I guess I could have built all these cabinets and everything, but my wife really wanted it done quickly, and she said I had enough projects to do besides this. And plus, with the price of plywood and everything, this would have been $1,200 easily. I think I'm under it, or in it, for around $600. And it should last several years, and it's just a pantry anyways. So leave comments, let me know what you think, like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.